Hello, how are you? That is probably the most innocuous question, and it's one that we use all the time. When you meet someone, oh hi, how are you? How often do you give an honest answer? I know I don't, and probably your reason for not answering honestly is the same as mine. You're thinking, oh, I don't really want to bore others with my problems. And that's very natural. But asking how someone is should be a chance for them to really think, okay, actually, how am I? Because carrying on from the theme of self-love, knowing how we are is actually really important. And you only really know how you are when you are mindful of all the signals that you're getting from your mind and your body. But all too often, we just ignore things that we know might mean there's a problem. We can do this for a number of reasons. You may have to pay for treatment, certainly if you're over in the States. Being ill means paying out a lot of money, so you may think, oh, I can't afford, it'll go away. I can't afford treatment. Or you may think, oh, it's not that serious. You may ignore the symptom out of fear because on one level you know that this is something that could be a sign of something more serious. And so being asked, how are you, can trigger all sorts of unpleasant feelings sometimes, particularly if on one level you know that you're not actually feeling that good. Now, this isn't about me telling you that, next time somebody asks you how you are, that, you should pour out your life story. Very often, we're the person saying that. That's how I opened this video. Hi, how are you? Next time you find yourself in a situation where you're greeting someone and going into that automatic response, hi, how are you? I'm going to invite you to leave yourself really open and really listening and being really aware to pick up the hidden text that can sometimes lie in the almost automatic reply of, oh, I'm okay. Because communication, although as human beings we mainly communicate verbally, actually we communicate with body language, we communicate by posture, we communicate with the tone in our voices. And although you might not think it, you will be very acutely aware, particularly if you know the person well, you will know if there's something a little bit off about their response to that simple question. How are you? Oh, I'm okay. Or I'm okay, thanks. World of difference. Communication is an art. I was once told something by a communication expert and I've never forgotten it. Don't think about what you want to say. Think about what you want the other person or the people to hear. Because true communication not only involves one person giving information in one way, but also involves the other person or people in receiving and processing that information. How often, when you're in a conversation, would you resonate with quite a well-known saying? Are you listening, or are you simply waiting for your turn to speak? Practicing active listening is a skill that is well worth doing. Hang on a minute, I can hear you say, these sorts of videos are normally about ways to help me with my mental health, to help me with my physical health, little techniques and life hacks that I can use to make my life a bit better. Yep, absolutely. But active listening is an extremely important life skill, because human beings are social animals. This has been well proved. This was certainly proved during the pandemic. Human beings are social animals. We need other people around us. We need to communicate. But it's not really fair if the communication is only one way. Now, probably an awful lot of you will be able to relate to the scenario where you are in a relationship and it's all going one way. You're the one doing all the giving and the other person isn't giving anything back. It's sadly very common. I've got a number of instances of this. In one case, my alcoholic ex, I just gave and I gave and I gave, and he wasn't really interested in me or in our son. He was more interested in the bottle. And in the end, I did the sensible thing and I left him. And I don't regret that. Some people say, oh, you should have stayed. You should have helped him with his drinking. I tried. But the bottom line is, if someone isn't ready to be helped, it doesn't matter what you do. It's not going to make any difference. And right now, I'm involved with two people, both of whom want help and support, neither of whom are really aware of the situations that may be going on in my life and in my husband's life that would be helped if they just say, how are you? They just showed that they were at least partially interested in other people's affairs. Because although I always say self-care is never selfish, and it's not, I still say that, it is very easy to become so self-centered and focused on your own problems that you forget that A, there are good things in your life, and B, that you know what, other people may also have problems. Now, next time you get asked the question, how are you? There's no need to go into a huge diatribe about all your problems, but try being honest, because if you want a good relationship with people, honesty matters. So next time you get asked, how are you? Instead of saying, oh, I'm okay, maybe vary it a bit. Maybe say, well, you know, my hip's hurting today, but otherwise I'm okay. Let the question, hi, how are you, be a trigger. Not only to think what an honest answer is, because if you're not okay, why pretend? Seriously, why pretend? It's exhausting. But use it as a trigger to check in with okay, how am I? How often do you check in with yourself and think, how am I? Oh, I've got this strange ache. Oh, I've got this strange pain. Oh, I'm a bit hungry. Oh, I'm a bit worried about things. But also, at the same time, use it as a trigger to think, well, what's going right in my life? You know, what have I got to be grateful for? Because when you appreciate the things in your life that you've got to be grateful about, and maybe that should be your response to the question, how are you? Something that you can really be grateful about. When you are grateful for things, your own problems do tend to become less, but also gratitude opens you up so that you do become more mindful and aware of those subtle signals that other people can send. That maybe they are hiding things, not only from you, but from themselves, that maybe they could do with someone to really listen to. Now, obviously, not all these interactions take place in a place or time where you've actually got the time or an appropriate place for you to be a listening ear for someone else's problems. But that doesn't preclude you from, when you pick up on something, say, fancy meeting up for a coffee and a bit of a chat? Because very often, and I hope you'll relate to this, very often when you've got something going on in your life, what you really want is just someone to listen. You don't want help and advice. You don't want people trying to help you. Maybe you do want people trying to help you, but there may be nothing they can do. But sometimes it really helps just to sit there and let it all out. Oh, well, my mum-in-law's being difficult. My sister-in-law is just not listening at all. And I've got this dreadful pain and, I can't stand up, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes you just need to get it all out so that you can express them, because expressing those feelings can stop them building up into something that becomes absolutely unsupportable. Because feelings, whether physical or emotional, need to be attended to. And if you don't, they'll come back and they will bite you severely later on. Now, if you recognise that facility that you need to just sit there and have somebody listen non-judgmentally, how often do you make yourself open to being the person who's listening? Mindfulness, which is a big part of what I talk about here, is about being aware. It's about being aware of how your mind and body are, but it's also about being aware and receptive to what's going on around you. So, my challenge, is that the right word? I'm not quite sure. But whatever your instinctive answer to the question, hello, how are you, is right now, I'm going to give you a moment of silence. This isn't a meditation. I'm going to give you a moment of silence just to think, well, okay, how am I really? And I'm going to shut up for a bit and let you think about what an honest answer to that question is. Now, if that little period of reflection brought up a whole load of negatives, I want you now to actively focus on one or two things that you're really grateful for. It can be as simple as, hey, at least I've got a roof over my head. Or, hey, I've got enough money to meet my basic needs. Or it could just be, okay, things aren't perfect, but you know what? I'm still alive and still breathing. And actually, that last phrase is one I often use when I'm asked how I am. I say, I'm still alive and still breathing. And it reminds me, yes, there are things that are wrong. I'm actually on the waiting list to have hip replacement surgery this summer. So there's a lot wrong, but I'm still alive and I'm still breathing. And you know what? There are times when I'm getting pain in my hip that I can think, oh, do you know what? I know it's hurting, but hey, at least I'm alive to feel that it's hurting. So I've got two challenges for you today. I've given you the first one. Really think about your answer to the question, how are you? Give an answer that is as honest as it can be without drowning the person out with all your woes, unless they're sending you clear signals that they're ready to listen. Focus on what you've got to be grateful for. But also, the next time you ask that question, as Judge Judy would say, have your listening ears on. And not only your listening ears, but use your eyes and your intuition and your gut feelings. And if you pick up that the person you've asked the question to is giving you a less than honest answer to that question, for whatever reason, throw them a lifeline. They don't have to accept it. Because, as I've already said, until people are ready to accept help, there's no point in trying to help them. But just find a way of saying, look, if you want to talk, I'm happy to listen. And if you do that, really, really listen. It could be that all they need is just to sit there and rant to you for about 5 minutes. And then they'll say, do you know what? Thank you for listening. I feel a lot better for that. Because sometimes talking or writing about what's going wrong can help you focus your thoughts, can help you actually get a better handle on, what's really going on. I've very often found that having a rant to somebody or writing things down, I've found a solution that I hadn't noticed before, because the talking and the writing can focus your thoughts. That simple question, hi, how are you? It's a very common event, as I've already said. It's something that happens in every country, and everyone asks and replies in various ways, whether it's over the phone, whether it's by text, by electronic DM, or face-to-face. And if anything I've said has resonated with you and you're thinking, oh, I could really do with just having someone to listen, DM me. I'm very happy to be a listening ear. I can give you my email address, and you can rattle off a long rant. And if you say at the end or at the beginning, I don't want help and advice, I just want you to listen, that's fine. That's all I will do. I will listen or I will read, and I will hope that you get some perspective by me being a part of the process. Because I promise you, if you do send me a long email, I will read it. And you will get a response from me to say, okay, I've read it. I may then say, is there anything else you need from me? But, you may not. As I say, communication is two-way, and we live in a world where it is fantastically easy to communicate electronically, by video, whatever. And yet in a strange way, we've got worse and worse at communicating because it's anonymous and we lose the personal touch. Next time you have a face-to-face communication, I invite you to make the most of it. Not only to give an honest answer to the question, how are you? Because sometimes when people ask that, they do genuinely want to know. But also being alert when someone gives a reply that makes you think, oh, hang on a minute, there's something wrong there. And offering them a chance for you to be their listening ear. Now, what's the point of doing that when you've got so many problems of your own? Because psychology and science and research has shown the more real connections you have in your life, the healthier and the happier you are. And so that simple exchange, hi, how are you, if handled right, could lead to that person becoming a stronger, more real connection for you. And that could benefit both of you. I hope you found this helpful. Take care of yourself. Namaste.